Are you ready? Okay. We'll call the City Commission workshop to order at this time. It is March 1st. Time is 5:01 p.m. If you all stand for the Lord's Prayer and the Pledge. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Do we have any additions, deletions, changes to the workshop agenda?
Yes, Madam Mayor and Commission, I have before you a draft letter that I submitted today for your consideration. It's a draft aquifer storage and recovery, ASR wells, as they're commonly referred to. It's a support letter for the that project that's outlined in the SERP. That's part of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Lake Okeechobee Watershed Restoration Project. There's been some recent media attention to this, and there's a deadline coming up of March 7th to submit any written comments. And it's been recommended to the city through me that we take a position in support of this through our consultant. So this is a draft of a letter. I already got one little tweak I need to make. In the last line where it's 1999, I'm going to put when SERP was approved because I'm not sure if it was 99 or 2000. But other than that, if it's a consensus of the commission, I'll submit this on behalf of the city before the deadline.
When was the deadline?
7th, Sunday. It's coming up.
And so you'll, if
I got
everybody's
this,
in
late
consensus,
Friday
you'll
night.
email it, correct?
Yes, I'll submit it by email if there's no objection on behalf of the city in support of it.
Yeah, I'm good with it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's consistent with the position the board took a few meetings ago, and we submitted a letter, but this is to get it in the official record for this particular item.
And just to show that we believe that, that this is part of SERP and that we're in agreement that these projects should be funded and move forward.
And listening or reading the article that was in the Okeechobee News was in it this week, the Corps is looking at making some changes to the plan, and that's why it's felt that through our consultant that it's important that you take a position on the important pieces we don't want to see changed or deleted, because they're actually looking at possibly taking one piece out that was in their approved plan. Not this one, but another one.
The wetlands. Okay. So everybody's in agreement. We would like for this to be.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like some time to read it.
Go ahead, take a minute.
Thank you. That's the only change, is to add that to the agenda, and otherwise we're ready to go.
Can we take action on this at the end of the meeting so I got time to read it?
Okay, well, we're going to move it, Mr. Morton, to the end of the meeting so that Commissioner Thompson has time to read it and digest it.
Okay, you want to put it as H or?
Yes, sir.
Even though it'd be number 5, I guess.
Right, number 5.
No, we wouldn't put it on the next agenda.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. This time, do we have any public comments? Is there anyone who wishes to speak on anything? Hearing nothing, we'll move forward to item number 1. You all have information in your packet from the city manager on the recent vacancy and how to move forward. And all we need tonight is a consensus to follow the plan that Mr. Morton has laid out. We'll have the in-depth discussion and the votes on this on Monday.
The 15th,
Yes, I'm sorry, Monday the 15th.
the next regular meeting.
Yeah, I think it's a good procedure. How are we going to advertise? Just social media or?
Well, we put it on a website is one thought we had. Put it on a website, our social media platforms, I've also, I typically do some other send out information just in our distribution list that we have through the clerk. Any other suggestions for that? We don't really have time to advertise in the paper or run a ad or anything of that nature, but certainly anybody who's interested and reaches out to us. And of course, we're live streaming this meeting tonight, so hopefully people will hear the process. And I guess for purposes of that, I might want to hit the highlights of the process.
And this is also already on our website.
Yeah,
It's been
I believe
posted on
she
our
posted.
website. It did. It is on the
Okay.
website.
I haven't looked, but I presumed it was. So I'll be glad to review it for the purpose of the audience and the folks that might be listening. The highlights, of course, you have in your package a written resignation from Commissioner Melanie A. McGahee, and you've got your attorney's opinion that would only become effective upon acceptance by the board. That's why you can't do anything to fill it prior to formally accepting it. Since tonight is a workshop, you typically don't take action at workshops. That would be the first action you would take at the March 15th meeting. Then if you follow the process recommended, and the goal here is to be open and transparent with the public and give everyone that's interested the opportunity to know what the qualifications are and to express an interest in writing. The city attorney recommended that we create a application for it, a brief. We did a one-page application that you have a copy of that tries to flesh out as much of the qualification criteria as possible that's required in the statutes and in the charter. And I can review that real quickly. We also provided you with a copy of the charter as well as the attorney's opinion on the various items that affect the appointment process, and he's referenced some cases and things related to that. Essentially, the action recommended would be the commission would, on the March 15th, consider the resignation, take formal action to accept that. Then you would discuss preparation for that. After tonight's meeting, we will put out the deadline and the application through all the manners that we just discussed. It would either be available to people to pick up, or they can do it online and submit it to us. The clerk would need those back, to be fair to everyone, by a date time certain. I've recommended March 8th at 5 p.m., a week from tonight. If that's acceptable, then we will proceed to distribute the form in every manner we can and answer questions about the process. Prior to the 15th meeting, we would assess the qualification with the assistance of the clerk, the attorney, and get input as necessary from the attorney on any questions of qualification. Submit the qualified list to the commission and in your agenda information for the next meeting, or as soon as it's available prior to that. And then at the meeting, you could consider action immediately after the action to create the vacancy. You could consider at any point after that, and it would be on that agenda to discuss and consider whether you feel you've got adequate response. And if you do, take action on the appointment from the list of qualified applicants. And that would conclude it, other than the person would have to take an oath of office and so forth subsequent to that. I'll be glad to answer any questions, but that's the process that we tried to make to affect this. Just for qualifications on the application, we're asking for name, home, contact information, residency. It is clear in the charter that a person would have to be a resident of the city for at least a year prior to the appointment, and be a U.S. citizen, have not been convicted of a felony, a current registered elector or registered voter in the county, and eligible to vote in the city for at least 1 year, as I just noted. And there are some restrictions under state law, as the attorney commented on, in terms of other offices We ask whether they hold any other elected offices or appointed, and the mental competency in Florida or any other state, an adjudication on that. Ask that question. Occupation, business address, other contact information. And then the last question, of course, the other ones is relative to our schedule of meetings, just so they're aware of it, and if it would pose any kind of hardship or conflict with their schedules for their employment or anything else. And then we ask them to prompt what prompted their interest in serving, and ask them to include here or in additional documents attached to the application their experience or any training which they feel qualifies them for the position, and they can add additional sheets as necessary.
Thank you.
And the attorney should be online if you have any questions on his opinion letter that was distributed to you previously and included in the agenda.
Anybody have any questions, comments?
Just one comment. I think we might, just to avoid a cumbersome moment, we should make a time or date certain for the new appointed commissioner to actually be sworn in or take office.
Okay.
If we do it at the beginning of the meeting, what if they're not even here?
Yeah, on the 15th, that's a good point. I certainly haven't dwelled on that. So thinking out loud for the first time, the attorney would be here. You could have an oath of office ready, but without your action and appointment, we wouldn't know who it is, and they may or may not be
No,
here.
I think we should appoint, as long as everyone's comfortable that night appointing.
The oath of office would just need to be done. That could be done outside of a meeting prior to the next meeting, or it could be done at the next meeting as the first item of business, with the presumption that they've already been appointed, and we would distribute the agenda and all the information, and we just do it. I think what we did in December or November, whenever,
The election.
we just swore in the two new members at that meeting as the first action. So that would be my recommendation, is you do it at the next meeting that the attorney's here
That's
to
the
swear in.
April meeting.
Unless we had one prior to that, a called meeting or something.
When I was appointed, they voted, and I was sworn in that night.
Immediately? Oh,
If
and
the
that's-
person's here and you could do that, and the attorney's here, you could certainly do that. But we won't know if there's multiple applicants, and I presume there would be. They may or may not be here. So maybe you could call that. But at worst case, you would do it at least by the next regular meeting as the first item of business. Because they wouldn't be official until they're sworn in. They'd be the appointee, but
Does the swearing in have to take place at a meeting?
no, I don't believe so. But make sure with Gary on there if he's on there, but I don't believe it. So
Gary? Mr. Brandenburg, are you on the line?
I don't know what happened. But
I'm on the line there. I'm sorry, I had to unmute.
That's okay.
And the oath of office can be signed outside of a regular meeting. In the past, you've done the swearing in at regular meetings. You could actually be prepared to do it on the 15th if, in fact, the person you're appointing is available. Of course, we wouldn't know before that meeting who the consensus would be about who's going to be appointed. So you'd basically have to have all the applicants there.
Correct.
That request can be made, right, for all the
Yes.
applicants to be present, or if not, it can be done. So Gary, just to be sure, the actual oath can be done outside the meeting of the 15th if they're not present. The city we can appoint. If they're not here, then they can sign the oath, take the oath after the 15th, and be ready for the April meeting.
That's correct.
Okay.
Or you can do it right at the beginning of the April meeting. Or you can do it at the meeting of the 15th if they're there.
Okay.
We'll just play it by ear then, I guess.
Thank you, Gary. I'd
you for
be
bringing up that
prepared.
question.
I'd be prepared for the 15th.
if they're here.
Right, correct.
Okay. I like the way it's been outlined, the time, I think it's, I think we're a small community. A lot of people have already heard about this. And I think that once we post it on our social media pages or, have the radio station also give that information out. The newspaper wouldn't, but they could put it on digitally maybe. I think that would be a wider audience. And then, of course, our city website, and that is important, I believe, because most people would check the website for city news. And then the email list that we have at the city that can be sent out that way, and maybe through just different entities and nonprofits in the community, we could share that information with them as well.
Every department has it on their webpage too. That would be Anybody else have any comments, any questions? So then we're all in agreement to move forward as
I'm in agreement.
city manager has outlined.
Yes.
We have a consensus.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
very good. So any questions from the commission on item B?
On the administrative report, the second one?
Yes,
Okay.
two. I'm sorry.
I
Two.
appreciate that everybody, I'll just, because I had asked
Yes,
about
ma'am.
this, and so I'm thankful that the staff, Sherry, thank you. I know you and Randy have been working on this, and I appreciate the information. My question is for the attorney. Now that we have this list and it's been reviewed and we're certain and we know without a doubt that they're outstanding liens, I believe that some of the properties are non-homestead property. And so I would just ask you to get with the city manager and the finance director and I guess suggest a path forward on what our next step is. I mean, I don't know how often we send this information out to the property owner and how long it's been since we've had any communication with a property owner, but I'd like for us to at least notify the property owner and what possible are the next steps according to what the attorney recommends, and that it come back to the commission for us to discuss. And as well as I did talk to the city manager about this, that I know that there's probably some code liens.
Yeah, and I've got a comment on that before,
Okay.
after you finish talking
Okay,
about this.
all right, perfect.
I didn't know if the board members need any further explanation from the finance director or myself on the liens, but you've received the update, and I appreciate the finance department putting that together. They put in a lot of time, and these are aged, outstanding liens for property that are associated with improvement liens. That's this category, as I explained in my cover. I did want to clarify one thing I said in my cover email after you discussed the improvement liens. Since we're getting ready to consider doing some more property improvement liens, we want to make sure the board understood what the history of that is and some of the long-standing outstanding liens. And I agree with the suggestion. That would be my recommendation as we go to get the attorney involved with staff and we come up with a process to address these liens, and any action required of the commission related to that process, we bring back for your consideration.
Questions, comments?
It's one good thing. It's a fairly short list. The principal amounts are fairly low, but I can assure you the interest and penalties, they're big numbers. But that's the rub, and I think when we look at alternatives, that's where we're going to look at what can we do to expedite closure on some of these. We had one not too long ago that the board did approve some adjustments, and the special magistrate approved it for the portion that was code enforcement liens, and that one was resolved. But most of these, as you can see, have been around a while and aren't going away unless we do something, in my opinion, to try to close them.
Yeah, it looks like some of these are also the same property on some of them, so it's less than 10 that we're looking at.
Yeah, and Sherry can comment on any specific ones, but I think there's at least one or two that are commercial property and the others residential or vacant or whatever.
I think that's a good plan. I mean, because I know there's legally we can waive some fees, but some we cannot. So you can bring that information back and we can
Yeah.
make a
that
decision on how
decision.
much in the process.
Okay. The comment I wanted to make was regarding the code enforcement liens. I hadn't, to be very frank, hadn't spent very much time on that. That one was one that I haven't spent a lot. Since I sent this out, I've had a discussion with finance as well as with code enforcement, and I've already gathered a summary of those liens. And I did find out we do have some problems in there. There are a few that are aged and are growing. And similarly, we'll be recommending that we get with the attorney, and of course those have to go through the special magistrate. But they've already been through them, and what we're going to do is see how we can resolve those that are outstanding, because some of those are long-standing as well, dating back to when the city began the code enforcement process and lien process. But there's not a lot of those, but there's some fairly significant amounts associated. And some of them the city had actual expenditures on, hiring someone to mow and keep lots mowed, others not. So we will follow a similar procedure with that, and we'll be reporting to the commission similar report to this with the status of those and a list of them and the addresses.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Item 3, updated report regarding Commerce Park. Did you have any?
Okay. Just to hit the highlights of this, Commission had asked that I come back with a report. We had a transition in the board. I presented a preliminary report in October to the Commission. Then we had the election and some transition on the board. I'd hope to come back sooner with this. I'll just walk through the recommendations I have ready. I won't read all of the report. Essentially, the highlights are we've sold 3 lots in the park previously. 2 of those are undeveloped. 1 is developed. And I'll comment more on the developed one in a moment. Of one of the 2 that was sold, the owner has purchased the property, and this is item 1, and if you're following it on page 2, the lot 4 property was purchased by NQAS Corporation. They have since, this purchase in December of 18, they have purchased the property where they're currently located and desire to sell this property or dispose of this property. The realtor has advised me that they're not going forward, but the transaction with the city required that we have the right of first refusal. My recommendation is that we waive that repurchase right, if you will. It's not a right of first refusal, it's actually a repurchase right, that we waive that and allow them, if they choose to sell it or do whatever, do it on their own initiative. I do not believe it's in the city's best interest to buy it back, and that'll be my recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay? Any discussion on that one? That's item 1. With regard to item 2, this is where we found out in October when I presented it, and I've spent a lot of time since then trying to get this all worked out. We had 2 offers for lots 7 and 9 in October. Once I became aware of it after that meeting or at that meeting, and we verified, it was determined that the owner of lot 8 in the contractual agreement that was entered into when that property was purchased had the right of first refusal for lots 7 and 9. Being unaware of that, that of course threw a kink in us being willing or able to sell lots 7 and 9 to someone else without contacting the owner of lot 8. So I followed up with lot 8 owner through their attorney, or through the owner. They indicated a willingness to buy both since there were offers pending for expansion purposes, and they indicated that. And so I'm working with their attorney to the next step would be, if you agree, to come up with contractual agreements to sell lots 7 and 9 to the owner of lot 8. And I go on to describe the owner of lot 8, of course, is Mr. Gustavo Perez, who is also the owner of Augusto Manufacturing Facility that's located on Obispo Avenue. Mr. Perez and his agents authorized me to share with the commission the company's intent to expand their operations at the Obispo location to add on an additional 15,000 square feet, approximately $7 million investment, increase employment by 20% is estimate. That would be about 10 to 12 more people for his over 50 workforce now. His business is doing very well, so he has asked for assistance in recruitment of employment. I've hooked him up with Hendry County Economic Development for that assistance, and I'll be recommending to the commission the formal sale that we proceed to enter into contracts to sell these 2 lots to All Juice, offer it to them. That's the actual company name that Lot 8 was put in. The connection to lots 7 and 9 is the owner of Augusto. Then we went over and visited the 2 lots, and he indicated his plan is to expand his operations on to lot 7 in a phase 1 development of a building, approximately 10,000 square foot buildings, what he believes it would be. He currently has 8 employees working in the lot 8 facility, producing these bottles that they use for the Augusto operation. He gave me one to display. Did not have at this point an estimate of the investment there. He did show me they've purchased quite a bit of equipment that will be going into the Obispo location, and his plan would be to not slow down production because it's very high right now, the demand for either facility, by utilizing his existing building on lot 8 and the additional building that he'd be building on lot 7 to make sure that he's able to handle the expansion. We'll be meeting with our technical review committee to go over the plans as soon as they're submitted for the expansion of the Obispo facility. And once we close or near close on the lot 7 lot, he would submit plans to go forward with the development there. And I'll stop at that and hope I haven't confused everybody. It's exciting
questions,
news,
any
as
comments?
I said, should have ended with that, for the city, sizable investment with a company that's been very strong here, and I'm certainly pleased to present this.
And I appreciate you doing that. I didn't realize that those plastic bottles were made here in town. That's wonderful
Yeah.
news.
He apparently has been working on it for over close to a year during the pandemic, and they started several months ago producing them. He has all of it set up in there, and I saw the operation and the storage of all the bottles they've been making.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
If none, I'll move on to item 3. As stated, since lot 7 and 9 were no longer available for the original offers that I was going to present for action after the October report, I've gotten with the companies there and working to incorporate them into other locations in the park. At this point, I have one of those firm, and that's the Advanced Medical Sanitation, AMI company. They are still interested, and what I'm recommending is, and I've talked to the engineer to do the survey work or to prepare a survey that would address several things within the park, is to subdivide lot 10, which is a 10-acre tract across the street from lot 7, 8, 9, and divide it into at least 4 parcels, possibly more, but at least 4, and would recommend that we offer 10A as depicted on the sketch of that subdivision that you have in your agenda package, 1.5 acres approximately, to AMI Corporate Company for the offered price of $1.50 a square foot and the other terms as listed. And their investment they're anticipating is $500,000 with the creation of at least 10 jobs. And this would be an established business operation for a light manufacturing classified biomedical waste processing, sanitizing, and disposal company. The disposal would be in a certified landfill operation, And they will also do personal protective equipment, a wholesale sales aspect of those products from the facility. And my intention is to bring forward a recommendation for you to, and the owner is desirous of moving forward at a rapid pace.
Thank you.
I have some questions
Okay.
of the city manager on this one. When I hear biomedical waste processing, of course, it concerns me. And I looked at our CPID, and I didn't see on that as a list of approved uses for our park. I just wanted to know if there was anything that I missed there, because it does say in our CPID that that conditions of approval, won't have an adverse impact on any of the adjoining businesses.
Correct.
And I know I asked you about, because we do have, we see that plastic bottle, there's food products out there, and then I guess as a rural community that prides itself on farming and bringing things to America's table, so to speak. I just have a question about,
Sure.
How that could negatively impact us.
And I had some similar questions. I've gotten very favorable answers. Of course, during the due diligence period, we would have to, it'd have to qualify that it does meet our zoning requirements. As you know, the zoning ordinance is not all inclusive or exclusive. It lists light manufacturing, some general terms. My assessment is it likely meets that because it's all internalized. They don't require any kind of air quality permit. They don't use a heavy water sewer. It's a sanitation process. What as I understand it, this company primarily does is they collect this biomedical waste. Every time you go to the doctor's office, you see that special disposal bin. They collect those products, bring them to this location, do whatever internal sanitation process they do. Then it's qualified and approved to go to a landfill, and they haul it directly to the landfill. And that's it's nothing that goes into the sewer system or doesn't use an extreme amount of water, and there's no air quality. It's not an incinerator. And that's one of the things I asked about because that's a different operation. I've had one of those companies contact me and express interest, but an incineration process does have an air quality impact, and they require a state permit and a county permit for air quality. This one does not, is my understanding. And based on my understanding at this point, and in the research that they've shared with me, this is an ongoing typical process that's allowed in other light manufacturing, but we would need to verify that before the offer would become effective and we could accept it. And I'll be glad to provide more information before we would close on that.
Well, I just want to
Thank
make
you
sure
for the
that-
questions.
Well, because we have the CPID, and I know that originally we were very specific because we certainly don't want an adverse impact in that park.
No.
For the other businesses, and I certainly don't want to see an adverse impact for the community when someone says biomedical waste and what might happen. And the reason why I bring it up, Randy, lots of history going back, but the minute a community, a rural farming community has a stigmatism of some kind of medical issue, it lasts for decades.
Yeah, and that's a very good point.
So that's what my biggest concern was.
And it is a very small operation. Obviously, they only want 1.5 acres. It's not a huge one, but I will get a lot more in it. But I wanted to go ahead and divulge that they've made a firm offer and are desirous of pursuing it. We will want to do our due diligence to make sure, one, that it qualifies. And if it requires an adjustment, that would require approval from the commission before that one could be effective, because it would have to be contingent on them being able to build it within our zoning.
Well, I wanted to just share with you my
Thank you.
concerns after reading this weekend. Thank you.
We'll make sure that those items are addressed adequately before any final actions requested.
Yeah, I'd like, you said they've made a firm offer.
Yes.
Just being around the block at least once, we don't need to let this thing hang out there.
That's right.
And I would even be in favor of soliciting some assistance if you need it to move this along from a local realtor or even hire a temporary person, somebody that
There
can,
is a realtor involved in this one. And
Okay.
so they are the ones that prepared the offer. And of course, I'll be working with the city attorney to prepare a contract that is what we would formally approve if at the point in time you take action.
Randy, would this all be self-contained? We won't
Yes,
have
it's my
piles of
understanding
garbage
it's
out?
all inside, but again, want to see the plans. And I'm sure, and there are existing ones that have been done. This company has been in the business a while, so I'm sure they'll be glad to provide those things to us. Before I would ask you to take any action.
Any other questions or comments? Item number 4, upcoming agenda topics.
Well, if you want me to walk through the rest of these bullets, or?
Sure, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just to be sure, at this point, I have an offer on another piece in there, and this one is very time sensitive. It is an ag-related business. It's the second half of item 3. They did not want their name made public until they formally present their contract, but and that would be at an action meeting like the 15th, and that's when I would propose this one be considered. It is a local area firm, I'll say that. They would be relocating. They're proposing an investment that they range it between $450,000 and $650,000. 12 jobs would be located there. This one's very time sensitive. It's ag related. It is in a food It's in a food industry connection. I'll say as much as I can say without saying the name of the company. They make products that are used with food, items of that nature, and they're very desirous of moving quickly. And my goal would be to bring this one at least to the 15th meeting for action for the board to accept, hopefully, their offer. It's for a 1.5 acre site next door to the one we were just talking about. This would be 10B. In the subdivided, they don't have a problem with us going through the subdivision process, but they want a contract because they've got to make a decision either to move to another spot or to do something different where they're at now, or come here, and they prefer here, is what they've told me.
Okay.
And this one has a realtor representative who has provided the offer to me, and they're willing to meet our requirements of purchase price and so forth. And they have relationships with area businesses and area ag industry that provides them the products they use in their business. So this one's a good fit. in my
Maybe
opinion.
manufacturing?
Yes.
Warehousing?
Yes, they manufacture and wholesale their products.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's what, as an ag community, I'd
Yeah,
love
it's
to
a
see
perfect
something like
fit.
this. It really is. So,
I'm excited about that. I will say their existing community is trying to keep them. So we're competing for this one. That's why I want to bring it forward as quickly as possible.
Well, we can have a special meeting if we need to on the 7th.
I'll let you know if I hear anything after I call them tomorrow and let them know of your consensus support for my recommendation. If I can get that, then I'll let them know of that and tell them the action will be on the 15th. If they think it needs to be sooner, I will let you know and
I
communicate
agree. A
with the
special
mayor to
meeting-
call the
a
meeting.
special meeting is needed, then we should do it.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I give you an update on the rest of the lots. I have had a late interest in Lot 3. I was prepared to recommend acceptance very soon of an offer for Natural Pet Products and Vitamin Company there. But I want to flesh out this other offer that I was contacted today from a realtor that wants to be considered for a different realtor for that parcel. And I had already had an offer from them, so I'd like to defer that one until I have an opportunity to compare and see which is the better offer. But at this point, I'm leaning to this one unless the other one gives me a specific project that's going to invest money and create jobs. They're both, the same in terms of meeting our requirements for the purchase price.
That's good.
All right. Now, the others is just for information. I did give you some.
I have a
Yes,
quick
ma'am.
question on that. I know we're talking about subdividing the 10 acres.
Yes, ma'am.
Would either one of these look at that other subdivision?
That's what I'm going to flesh
All
out.
right. Okay.
I'm
All right.
trying to
That's fine.
fit them
I just
all
wanted to
within the
make sure.
park, but these are smaller lots. They're 1 acre lots, so it's a little more challenging. But that would be my goal, is to have them all there.
Okay.
Okay. And actually, that was what the Realtor presented today as a plan that would. I also still have multiple offers on Lot 1 that I'll be bringing back a recommendation on. Still negotiating with those offerers to get the best deal for the city possible before I recommend it to you for action. In the summary, I give you some background information, since some of you are newer to this than others, and because it's been a while. There's some good news items in there, but I did summarize what the impact of these recommendations would be if we're able to do those and get them all to fruition. I also compared how it would compare with the investment that was made if we're able to sell all the lots at the asking price. I was very pleased to report that, and some other items in there. If you've got any questions on those, I can talk to you individually or collectively at a subsequent meeting, unless you got questions tonight.
Anyone?
No, but I do want to reiterate. I don't know how you can do all this by yourself. You just said you had multiple offers on multiple lots.
It's been a challenge. It's been a
Well,
challenge.
that's what I'm saying. I don't want to lose these fish, and we got them on the hook. And if you need help, I think
Thank
we're not
you.
at a meeting where we can vote, but please
Thank you. I will
spend the
keep that
money
in
to
mind.
get it, because if we're going to be making approximately 1.45 million, I think is what it said, if we sell all the lots, we can certainly take some of that money and pay someone to help you.
Right.
Yeah, I think that would be a minimal investment to do that, and thank you for that. And I will pursue that as necessary, utilizing the resources of the attorney and staff and anyone else that I need. The realtors are representing their interests, and I honestly, I like them competing. That's good for everybody, I think. But at the same time, I want to make sure they move forward. I've put enough effort and time. I regret and apologize to all involved for the delays of this. I hate to use excuses, but I don't know of a better one than COVID. It has had a huge impact during the time period that many of these started back in the summer through the fall, and I have no excuse except it didn't happen as quickly as I would have liked it to happen, because it's been a priority for me to see some success in that park, and I know it's a high priority with the commission.
Probably also a reason why some of these have come to a head at one time.
Yeah.
Correct.
Some of them are doing really well, particularly the Augusto stuff only is because of the economy has been a positive effect for them. But some of the people screeched to a halt during the pandemic. Others have gotten hotter, and now hopefully we're coming out the other side of that tunnel. And as I'm noting there, at least one of the ones that came to the board and we had a zoning consideration on Lot 2 has not made a commitment. I don't know if they're going forward, but I'm not going to hold it. I'm going to recommend we take another offer if there's another one on the table.
I think that what you've outlined here is fabulous, Randy, to give us the big picture. And I agree with Commissioner Pittman that if whatever you need to make this a priority, and even if we have to have a special meeting, I think that, it looks to me like we're all in consensus about that. So,
Okay. Thank you for that support. If there are no other questions, that's all I have on item 3. In terms of item 4, that's just to give you a heads up for the items that would be considered or presented at the next meeting. There is one item on that list, item 4E, that we have not discussed with the commission, and the attorney brought this to our attention, that the board should at least be aware that this is coming forward before you're asked to take any action on it. We have Danny Williams here tonight. It's the utility project, professional services, the design bill contract discussion. You have a copy of the first draft of that scope of services. We've since gotten a tweaked version that gives us the schedule and things like that. But without confusing it, at this point, we're not asking you to take any action on this proposal, but I particularly wanted Danny to comment on the use of this process previously by the commission on other utility projects that we're now either in the process of doing or wrapping up. So I'd like him to come up and give you a few comments about the way we've utilized this particular firm for this scope of services. And then the attorney may have some comments. The uniqueness to it is the design build approach. It has been used, and Danny can comment on that, but I'd like the attorney to give you any guidance on how the commission should be aware of how that works.
We do have Fred, who has handled the first part and the second part. He is online tonight. Basically, what we're going to do, I'm sorry, Fred?
That's Fred.
Yeah, and this is Fred representing the company that put in the scope of services. His official company name is
Public Utility Management and Planning Services.
Thank you, sir. I was looking for it.
Fred, if you want to speak, I'll follow up behind you if you'd like. This is Fred Blotcher, who he just introduced. So, Fred, if you'd like to speak, and I'll follow up.
And the Fred and the attorney have had a conversation, so they're all in the loop on this discussion.
Sure. I've met with the commission a couple times in the past. When we went through and initially started the inflow correction process to go ahead and keep water out of the sanitary sewer system from the surface. And then I did a presentation. We talked about the problems that we found. We've gone back in and now have completed lining the city. You approved the change order recently to go ahead and complete that work. Good news is we found very few laterals that were a problem, but we found more issues with the sanitary sewer system, and particularly some issues we found with springs that were leaking water into the system. Two of those that I think we fixed. So as a part of that process, though, one of the things that we noted, and we talked to your utility staff, and Danny and Lynn in particular, you have you got over 50 lift stations. And one of the problems that we've found is that a number of those stations have insufficient pumps. So basically the way that the sanitary sewer system works is every lift station should have 2 pumps in it at minimum, and each of those pumps should be able to handle the peak hourly flow. And then they discharge into a force main, and the city actually has a force main system that kind of goes through the city, maybe undersized in some locations. But in taking a look, we realized that the city has 1 pump in most of the stations, and some of the stations we're actually moving pumps around, and so trying to get the system, brought down to the normal level is a challenge. And one of the things that we talked about when I came and chatted with you all about the FFTF is you have a lot of paper products and other things like that. It shouldn't be in the sanitary sewer system. That creates a significant problem for your pumps and the motors associated with them. Danny rebuilds those on just a regular basis, but a lot of them are older. And so one of the things we talked about doing was let's go ahead and do the final piece of this and go out and let's put in the correct pumps, new pumps, get some of your control boxes brought up to pro grade. We actually have some lift stations that are right next to each other that I think we can pipe and eliminate some lift stations that would potentially save the city some money at the same time. That way it would be way easier to make sure that the system does not become surcharged, which potentially leads, exposes the city to fines from FDEP, frankly. And as we're trying to bring the amount of water coming into the plant down, and we've been successful to date in doing that. One of the things we need to do is get some things cleared out of the sanitary sewer system so that the pipes are not full. So I talked to the folks at the SRF program, and they have been more than willing to provide the city with state revolving fund loans. Most of those loans have all come as principal forgiveness loans. And so one of the things we talked about was we close out the current contract And because this is pumps as opposed to piping, they asked that we submit a new RFI, which I have provided the RFI to Danny and Lynn. That needs to go to the SRF program. It just simply puts you on the list so that if you want to proceed with putting in new pumps and things, you can do that. And then what my suggestion was is that we go out, go to every single one of your lift stations, we assess its condition, we identify what's there pump-wise, and we can look at the check valves at the same time and figure out what needs to be replaced or what needs to be upgraded. And then we go out and instead of trying to design every one of those, because if you look at it, you only have about 4 or 5 different pumps in the system. They may have some different impeller sizes, but they're relatively limited. And so it would be fairly easy to put together a bid document that the city could then use as a design build and have an engineer and a contractor work together and just replace all the pumps, which is really not a big issue. There's probably a little design that's involved in the control boxes, but you could standardize the control box as well. And the SRF program was receptive to that idea, especially as they're trying to help the city address some of its sanitary sewer problems. I would anticipate it would also include the large principal forgiveness loan, as the other ones have as well, which is why they asked me to submit it as, have you guys submit it. I did not submit it. You guys would need to submit it as a separate RFI and proceed down that pathway. That's kind of what we're proposing to do, and I gave Danny and Lynn a work authorization for a little over $30,000, with the idea that I and one of the guys I work with GIS would take a look at all of your lift stations, inventory those, sit down with your staff, make sure that we all are in agreement on the things that we need to do. We also do a little hydraulic modeling of your force main system at the same time to make sure that we have things sized, and provide you a report that then we can proceed with bidding. I note that the way this would work, I would not be part of that design build team, but I'm certainly available to help the city make sure that we stay pulled together with the SRF program in doing that.
Thank you, Fred.
Good.
Danny doesn't have anything to add. I guess I would suggest the attorney comment on his thoughts regarding these.
Gary, would you like to
Yes,
comment?
Mayor, thank you very much. The reason I suggested this item be brought to your attention is that the contract with Fred locks you into a design build process, and that's a little bit different than you're used to. So I wanted to make sure the commission was fully on board with that process before it started down that route. Now, normally, an engineer prepares all the specifications, and those specifications then are put out for bid in a normal city bid. That won't happen in this case. In this case, Fred is setting forth the program, and that program will then be put out for a combination of engineers and contractors together to place, for lack of a better word, bid on a project that includes both the design and the construction of the items that their team is designing. Fred will prepare that program, but as he mentioned, he will not be part of the team that engineers it or builds it. That will be a team that the commission will pick on a design, build, request for proposals, I guess it would be.
Right.
So that's a little bit different than what you've done in the past, and I wanted to make sure you were all buying into that process before we basically entered into a contract with Fred to get that process going.
Thank you, Gary.
If it helps anybody, I've actually done design build projects before, and we would probably spend some time as we get to that point of actually going forward, and probably spend a little time both with staff and with Gary and with the commission, letting them know exactly what we're proposing to do here.
Mr. Pittman.
Fred,
That's more than appropriate.
Jimmy Pittman, Commissioner. Hey, is the proposal that's a little over 32,000 that's in our packet, is that the cost for your company for preparing the RFI?
Yes, sir.
And as I recall, Fred, as I recall, that is an eligible expense under the funding source. That,
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I was just going to say, I've actually prepared the RFI for you already. Yeah, I tend to do things a little ahead of time sometimes. Then we'll prepare the other stuff. And again, it's everything that I've done for you guys once you proceed with the project becomes fundable. So you're paying for me with the SRF loans. And last time I checked, they were at 0.6% interest. That was the part that you actually have to pay back. The rest of it was not.
And I believe the last one we got about 80% loan forgiveness and very low loan amount.
Correct. Yeah, and that actually is the expectation here as well. Is that in my discussions with those folks is they anticipate we're going to be something in the same lines.
Okay. Anybody else? Follow up?
So if there are no objections, then and if the city attorney is satisfactory with the agreement documents, we would bring to you the action on Fred's contractual obligation at the next meeting. The rest of it would be forthcoming as was described.
I just wanted to add that I know recently I read in the paper that Fort Myers or Lee County and also Port Charlotte both have had issues with their system, with Lee County being fined over $700,000 for I guess their leaking system, and then Port Charlotte was actually working on a project and had issues, and so there was a lot of they were trying to upgrade. And I know that Fred, from working with you and listening to you over the years, I know that you know the system, you know our system very well, and you also know the whole entire process, especially with the state. And so I just want to make sure we're doing everything we can and that we are able to do so that we do not have any issues like some of these other communities are having. So I appreciate it being addressed.
I've been doing this for 20 years, working mostly with smaller local governments, and I've got a good relationship with the folks up in Tallahassee. I pick up the phone and talk to them. So,
Good.
so I ask them before I do anything what they want to do. So I've not had any problems. And I've the design build. I did the Daniel Water Plant as a design build, and we had no issues there. So I'll keep that in mind.
Thank you, Mr. Blanchard.
Part of that will be a back truck,
Okay.
part of this.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, that's something
Other-
we spent a lot of money on hiring people to do that kind of breaking up blockages and things. So to be able to get that as part of this package, that would really be a coup.
Positive.
Especially in
Just
emergency
one
situations.
other quick question. Is this take into consideration a possible expansion of our sewer
Well, it's
plant?
reducing our flows, so that's helped the plant. But
So
we
that'll-
are working on that
That'll
expansion.
delay the expansion
Yes.
if we can reduce that.
But we are working on it.
You're exactly right. It would delay the necessity for it because we'd have more capacity to work with in the interim. And that's what the I&I program has already done, but this would be a big extension of it. And the biggest thing here is to reduce our exposure to those god-awful fines that they're levying, because the more you leak, the more you're going to pay. And rightly so. I mean, communities have not acted in every case as responsibly as maybe they should have, and the governor and the state and legislatures made this a priority. And thank goodness the city was ahead of the game on the I&I program, and that's already produced a lot of benefit, but we need to go to the next level as long as the funding support is there from the state that we can afford it.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any other questions on any of the items under number 4 for the agenda topics? Let's go back to number 5 then. Let's go back
Okay.
to the letter for the ASR wells. The
Randy, does this any way negatively affect our farmers, and
Thank you, Fred.
do they support
Thank
this?
you, Gary. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You're talking about this, right? ASR
Yes,
wells.
go ahead.
Does this any way negatively affect our farmers, and do they support it?
As far as I know, they strongly support it. The few contacts I've had, but this would be significantly, and I'm not an expert, will impact positively the lake on the north side, and I guess it's actually, looking at the map that was in the paper, it's even bigger than the north side. These would be strategically placed around the north and the northeast, northwest of the lake, and they have significant storage capacity, which will keep water from going into the lake and also have positive effects on the need for outflows of the lake. So that's probably as unscientific an explanation as you can get, but I know of no impact. And the other part of it is this doesn't involve huge property acquisitions like some of the other elements of thousands of acres, which would potentially adversely impact on the farming community and the communities in general. As I understand it, these are fairly small in size, and again, I'm not an expert or engineer and deep, but their storage capacity is significant. I saw that, and it's a lot of money that the feds would be spending on this. Let me find that real quick.
Well, I just wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
I know some federal agencies are supporting it, but historically that always hadn't been
Yeah,
in our
and-
farmers' best interest either.
And it-
And without the ability to ask them personally, because
Yeah.
we have to move
Yeah.
on this, I would like to know.
And our consultant has been optimistic and positive about us stating an opinion. He just feels like the more opinions, because the Corps of Engineers is getting pressured to cut back on the budget anywhere they can, and they're actually looking at a change, and that's what the article primarily focused on in the Lake Okeechobee News, of eliminating one element of it that would save them some money. But the concern is, what else might they cut? If bids aren't good or whatever. And this is a big piece of the expected benefits. I think there are actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I think there's 80 something.
I
Originally
think
there
it's
was
12 of these ASR well clusters that they're talking about
88.
on all sides, and within that 12 number of them. With you say 88.
I think they started out at 333 and they're down to 88
Yeah.
under the water management.
Within
but-
these 12 locations, there would be 88 actual wells that would be utilized in this process, which, as I understand it, would be good for everybody who benefits from the lake. But there are some opponents to different pieces, including this, as far as I know.
My understanding is that the farmers aren't opposed to the ASR wells because it will help store water for dry season that can be pulled up and used. And over the years, this was part of the SERP, and it was important to do it. But also the fact that the Senator Simpson, the Senate President, has putting money forward in the budget this year for the North of the Lake project, specifically for ASR wells.
Yeah, no, it is 80 ASR wells would be in these 12 locations, 448,000 acre feet per year of storage capacity at just under $400 million. So it's a big ticket item.
Who's going to be in control of these wells?
The Corps, I presume, would manage them. Either them or South
Florida
Florida.
Management.
Yeah, one or the other
Yeah,
would manage them.
the share cost is 50-50, but I think it's water management land.
They would
which is
be,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, that's on their land.
So
Or
South Florida
our
would be
land,
managing
state
it.
Who's in
land.
control now?
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, it is in here that this South Florida would be the managing entity.
So we're in agreement
Yes.
to have the letters then?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Commissioner Gardner, do you have anything?
No. Oh, I know that you are going to be going to Dothan, Alabama. You mentioned for the,
Yeah, Dothan and Troy will be doing next week. Danny and I and Lynn we'll be visiting along with our 2 representatives from FMPA experts that are going with us that are on our evaluation team, and the Quanta representative that's our consultant. The group will visit the 2 next Tuesday and Wednesday, and one of them has one of the firms and the other one has the other. So we'll see them in operation, get to interact with their staffs, and hopefully get a good feel for the pros and cons of either or.
And so you'll just give us an update from the visit at the 15th, on the meeting on the 15th?
Yeah, we'll give an update. I'll probably get one out in my end of week report even sooner, but it will go into the process of the evaluation team before we do the final ranking of the 2 proposals and bring back to you the recommendation of negotiating a contract with the successful proponent.
Okay. And then I just to make sure I remember correctly, and I did ask you about the Ventura project. It looks like April will be when we look at that project.
I'll look at the dates on it, but we're in the process of advertising
Right.
to get the proposals or bids for Ventura.
Okay. So April
Section
most likely.
from Francisco to Dean Duff.
So we hope we have it on the agenda for April.
Sean, do you know that date that those bids are due? Do you know
I'm
that?
sorry, I was.
Bids, do you know when
These wells.
do you know when the bids are due for Ventura? Have we got that date yet?
Not yet.
Okay, we'll verify, but it
I
should
was
be in
just
the
in
near
hopes of
term.
April. I
Yeah,
wrote
we'll
it down.
shoot for the April meeting if we can get all possible, get them ready.
Thank you.
Because it needs to get going as soon as we can.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Thompson, do you have anything? Commissioner Pittman?
Yeah, I had also a question about the AMI Alabama trip. Was there not any of the any Florida cities that were
There are
represented?
some, but they're really large or they don't have electric, water, and sewer. So that's why these 2 were selected, because they have, and they're similar in size and number of meters. So we will be doing additional reference checks with Florida communities that have either water or electric. I know West Palm has one of them, has water meters, West Palm Beach County. And so, but they're hundreds of thousands of meters. And so we didn't think we'd need a visit like this for that, because they're much bigger and a different scale. But there are Florida companies in both of these, right, Danny? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not opposed to the location. It's just that I wanted to make sure that they're in Florida somewhere.
Yes,
because if we
both
to
of
go-
these have Florida companies that are cities and counties that are using their systems.
Census is doing Newberry right now.
And it was another smaller one in Florida,
Yeah.
but they're only doing water. I've forgotten which one of them is doing. We've got a list of them, and you'll get that with the other references when we check them.
That's all I had.
But thank you for asking that. That's a very good point.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, did you have anything?
Because I'm not excited about going to Alabama.
I know.
I've only been to the coast.
All these land deals you're doing, I don't know how you're going to make it.
Well, it's fortunately these are just 2 days, but I just never been to this area of Alabama. We'll see what it looks like. But
Lower Alabama at that.
I think we got to go to far east to get there from by plane.
That's a good point. I think it's usually referred to as L.A.
Yeah, LA.
You're going to be going to L.A.
Oh, really?
If you hear banjo music, hit the U-turn.
Lower Alabama is referred to as
Oh,
L.A.
is it? Okay, I hadn't heard that. I've only been to Mobile, but that's a little different than this area from what I got. But we'll keep you posted on it.
Did you have anything else this evening, Mr. Martin?
That's all.
Mr. Brandenburg, did you have anything?
No, thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
No problem. So then do we